Hi there, welcome to Human Design Alchemy. I'm Marianne, and today I want to dive into what I believe are the most important keys to living your human design. So I'm going to answer the question, what are 3 important keys to your human design? So have a think about it. What do you actually want to learn about your human design? You know, there's a huge range of things that you can actually dive into. Sometimes it feels like it's almost without end as someone who's been diving in for a while. So the question becomes, where is the best place to actually start? Now, because human design is quite a complex system, and even a lot of the foundational things can be or can seem a little tricky to understand and confusing, it's really hard to know what to actually do with human design. And some people find that it's just, let's put it in the too hard basket, let's not do anything with it. And that's a shame because there's so much power within human design. So the first thing I'm going to say is, don't allow yourself to get lost in the information about profiles and gates and channels and centers and arrows and all the other different things if you are new to human design. Of course, if you've been in it for a while, by all means, go for it. So what you want to do to start with is to actually get to the basics of your design. These are the things that might be basic, but they are very important to know about your human design. They are essentially the foundations to your human design. So the 3 things that I believe are most important to get a handle on, even if you're taking in other knowledge, is your type, your strategy, and your authority. I'm just going to give you a little quote from Karen Curry Parker, where she says, follow your decision-making strategy according to your type, and you will not only discover who you truly are, but you will be perfectly aligned with a life that is an authentic manifestation of your soul's purpose in this incarnation. All right. So basically, one of the key reasons why you want to start with these 3 foundational things is because they set you up to be able to follow your decision-making strategy. And essentially, your decision-making strategy allows you to align with everything else within your design. So it truly is the place to begin. All right, so let's start by looking at your type. So this is essentially looking at how your energy impacts you and impacts others. So the first thing it's really important to get a handle on is what your broad category of human design actually is. So, am I a generator? Am I a manifester? Am I a manifesting generator? Am I a projector or am I a reflector? Now, each of these different human design types have their own particular energy structure. And knowing what this is like will help you to understand how you're actually here to operate. So it is a big key to your actual decision-making process. So let me give you a little bit of an example. I am a projector. Now, the projector energy can be quite a tricky one. It's quite different, I feel, to the other types. And it can feel quite intrusive to other people. So this is particularly if a projector tries to get into their space or into your space, if you're not a projector, or even if you are for that matter, and you haven't actually recognized them or invited them in. Now, projectors are here to actually be able to see deeply into, the really, I suppose, deep needs, the deep desires, the deep areas where the other people need help. But if nobody has asked the projector for their help, their energy is not designed for the projector to just leap in and offload all of their advice. So this can be tricky for a projector because we can feel like we are rejected, we are invisible, we're not wanted, but this is simply because we haven't worked with our energy correctly. So, this has been my experience basically throughout my entire life. And for this reason, when I found out I was a projector, my first reaction was to reject this. Life as a projector can be tricky. It's beautiful when you actually know how to work with it, but getting into it initially can feel a little bit uncomfortable, a little bit tricky. So that's a little bit of advice for projectors. Just kind of tread warily. So I was convinced that I was going to be, at least a generator, but I was pretty sure I was going to be a Mani-Gen. Now, this is because I suppose partly because I've been brought up with parents who were a generator and a manifesting generator, but it's also because our world is essentially set up to really honor those people who fulfill work responsibilities. Now, in a lot of ways, generators and manifesting generators are also not using their energy correctly. So they are here to actually respond. They're here to respond to the things that's around them, the people that are around them. But they often want to just kind of go ahead and get going on stuff and not wait to to have something to respond to. Anyway, side note. So once I got over my, how can I possibly be a projector kind of moment, and I delved into it, I actually started to see how I really was a projector. It didn't matter how much I wanted to reject that. It didn't make any difference. My energy was a projector. So I then had to ask myself, how do I actually work with that? Or do I want to work with that? Do I want to just forget it and just go about living my life the way that I have been for, decades, essentially? So basically, I made the decision that I was going to try and work with it, experiment with it. Now, just another little side note, my profile is as a 1-3. So basically, I'm an investigator. I want to find out the information. That's why I'm here and can give you some information. But I also like to experiment with stuff. So I needed to actually experiment with being this projector to understand it. I'd got some knowledge. Now I had to experiment. All right. And as I started to do that, I was able to really embrace my energy and my type more and more over time, so that I spent less time in the negative energy of being a projector and more time in the aligned energy. All right. And essentially, because of that whole process, I decided, or did my design decide? Anyway, whatever. So basically, I decided to become a human design reader and coach, and to put all of my knowledge and my skills and my understanding that I've gained across my life, plus combine that with human design in helping people, because I am a projector. I am here to guide others into, essentially living a better life. All right. So second thing I want to talk about is your strategy. Oh, and by the way, if you want to find out more of the specifics about each of these things, I will be doing some videos about that as we go through. But this is just like a broad overview at this point. So the next thing I want to talk about is your strategy. So we will get a little bit more specific, but not detailed with this. So your strategy is about how the world is bringing you opportunities to make a decision about. And your strategy is there to kind of sift through the opportunities, because there's another part to the decision making. All right. So let's kind of go through what those different opportunities are for each type, and that might give you a little bit of some essence of that. So as I've already said, projectors need to wait for the world to give them invitations. Now, when we talk about an invitation for a projector, for those of you who are projectors, we are not talking about, going and grabbing coffee and cake with a friend, or, or not, because you're waiting for someone to invite you. So these can be decided on essentially based on what your authority is, which I'll talk a little bit about in a moment. So what it's about are invitations that are going to have a big impact on how the projector impacts other people. Ooh, that's probably too many impacts in there, but hopefully you've got the idea. So in other words, the invitations need to come from a basis of recognition. So people are recognizing that projector for what they specifically know, understand, have skills in, can bring to the party, essentially. And that recognition leads to an invitation to work with others. So a projector needs to be invited to have an impact on others. All right, let's talk about reflectors, which is always an interesting strategy. And it can be quite complex, but I think as reflectors work with their strategy, they kind of get to know themselves a whole lot more. And, they may not need necessarily to wait out the entirety of their strategy. So their strategy is, wait for it, waiting for a lunar cycle to pass. So roughly 28 days. So once again, this is a bit like the projector one. You're obviously not going to wait that long before you let your friend know if you're going to meet them down at the cafe. All right. This is about decisions that particularly have an impact on who you're with and where you are with, because reflectors need to be in the correct environment. All right. So the idea of the lunar cycle is because reflectors are the only type that are deeply connected to the cycles of the moon. So you need to honor those cycles and see how those cycles affect you, because you are, entirely undefined in your centers. So it's a really important thing. All right, let's move on to manifestors. I was having a conversation with a friend about manifestors just before, so it's kind of at the forefront of my mind. So manifestors have the strategy of informing. Now, this strategy is contrary to the way manifestors like to operate, because they have been conditioned across their life to learn not to reveal to others what they're up to. And this is because when they've done that, particularly as children, they've been stopped from following their natural energy to initiate stuff and get things going. All right. So basically, manifestors are here to initiate action in some way from their internal knowingness. All right. But when they get to this internal knowingness and they know there's something they need to do, then they need to let people know what it is they're actually doing. All right. So if they don't, then they can feel like there are blocks in their way. They can feel like things are not going smoothly. Life can feel like it's lacking in peace. So it's essentially for the well-being of a manifestor that they actually, learn to communicate and learn to inform. But it's difficult. They need to do some deconditioning generally. Every manifestor I've worked with needs to do some deconditioning around actually informing people. Now, once again, you can see this is not going to have anything to do with whether you're going to meet up with a friend just for, coffee and a chat. Okay. Now, let's get to the generator types, or generators and manifesting generators. Now, they, on the other hand, may have an answer in the moment about whether it's right for them to actually meet someone for coffee. So this is because they have the defined sacral center that gives them energy to do the right work and the right things, essentially. So their strategy is to respond to anything that catches their interest, big or small. So anything or anyone, I would say, This is a gut instinct that's binary, works as a yes-no sort of instinct. You might get other understandings beyond that, but essentially, in the moment, there'll be something to respond to. If it is binary, yes or no, you will have a clear understanding of whether you are meant to or not. So this is a very, I suppose, primitive kind of response in a way. So it goes back to, some of our intuitive type responses from, survival of the, well, I won't say survival of the fittest, but anyway, how humans have managed to survive across time. So basically for the generator types, they need to actually really be able to recognize when their sacral is giving them a yes in particular, but also probably to know what a no feels like as well. All right, so basically you need to learn to work with your strategy. That can sometimes be quite difficult. It goes against what we've been trained as, the way that we're meant to work. And we're usually told that we need to use our mind to actually, give a yes or a no to. So this is an area where human design definitely goes in a different direction, all right? Because our deepest instincts and understanding about ourselves come from within our body, not within our mind, all right? So we want to try and make sure that we are listening to the body through our strategy, all right? Let's talk about the authority next. So this is how your body gives you a signal about the opportunities that it's showing you. All right. So this is really the end point of your decision-making process. For projectors, it's probably the part where you are likely to be able to make those small decisions about meeting for coffee. So let's talk about it. So basically it helps you to know what opportunities are correct for you or not. And I would say with the authority, it's useful to know that a yes doesn't mean that you are necessarily going to, end up drowning in wealth. It doesn't mean that you're going to end up getting the job that you want necessarily. It may, but what it will mean is that you are going down a path that is correct for you. So energetically comfortable, I would say. All right, so there are a number of different authorities. The most common authority is the emotional authority, and this is over 50% of people who have this authority. So they say probably 52, 53, something like that. Now, this authority uses an emotional wave, or at least one emotional wave. Some people have more than one emotional wave to make their final decision. So that can be a little bit tricky. All right. So there, like I said, there are around 7 authorities, depending on how you count them. So some people say there's only 4, and so on. Because I'm an unusual authority, I like to say let's count them all. So I'm a self-projected projector. So some authorities, though, can only be found in certain types. So like the sacral authority can only be in generators or manifesting generators. Projectors tend to have a wider range of authorities that are available to them. And reflectors are unique in that they can only have one, and it's basically the same thing. So their strategy and their authority are essentially the same thing. I hope that makes sense. All right. So I won't go in detail about all of them because I do plan to talk a little bit more in an episode just about authorities, because my experience is that this is one area where, we kind of need a little bit of guidance to actually really tap into it and understand it. So just kind of get to understand what's your authority, get a sense of how it's working, where's it coming from in your body, and know that the final part of the decision-making process will be some kind of a sensation that will arise in your body, no matter what authority you have got. All right. So the main thing that I've found with authority, in my personal experience and in the experience of my clients, and probably also, listening to podcasts, reading books, like gathering information. That's my line one at work. What I would say is my main takeaway is that even though your authority might have the same label as someone else's, the way it is going to work will have its unique flavor that is really driven by your own unique design. All right. So it's truly yours to experiment with. So, as I've said, am a self-projected projector. My sister is a self-projected projector. Our authorities are not entirely identical. Some of the key points about it are, but what works for me is not entirely what works for my sister, because there's other stuff in my design and in her design that comes into play. So that's important to remember. That's why I'm going to talk about it in another episode or two, probably. So, because I want to talk about, how to actually experiment with this part of your design. All right, let's kind of wrap things up. So connecting with your type, your strategy, and your authority can be this amazing, empowering process. So it really does give you a tremendous feeling of balance and of certainty about your life. So essentially, there's no second guessing when you're making decisions. Once you learn to align with, particularly your strategy and your authority, you will know if something is right for you or not right for you. All right. It really does take away that desire to seek out an external authority. So you don't need to go and ask, your best friend what they think you should do, because they don't know what's actually right for you. All right. So basically we kind of start to remove that the more we work with this energy. So that's probably the biggest thing. I think the other part is, it essentially allows you to really come to know and accept and love yourself the more you work with these things. All right. So you start to get this sense of certainty within you. This is who I am. I accept that this is who I am. There are things that are my strengths. There are things that I need to be aware of that could become weaknesses. It's this interesting mixed bag that makes me me. And there's nothing wrong with me. I'm not this weirdo. Well, probably am. But, it's like, it doesn't matter. I am who I am. And that's okay. I don't have to try and be someone else. So that's one of the biggest things for me around stepping into like type, strategy, and authority. So yes, and adding on to that would be the fact that the only time that I have truly felt like I know who I am, who the true me is since I've come to human design and have actually been experimenting with that and finding out how that works for me. All right. So basically, I feel empowered to be myself in a way that I never have in my life before I came to human design. All right. However, let's kind of add on a little bit to this. So I am talking about you needing to essentially have a decision to try and work with your design. So you can find out lots and lots of stuff about human design. Like, for example, I'm giving you information right now, and it can stay there, and that's okay. But it doesn't allow you to actually live your design. And that's where the magic is. You know, the reason why my business is Human Design Alchemy is because I want people to discover this magic of actually living their designs. So don't stay stuck in knowledge. All right. Even though, you know, using your mind and knowing stuff is what's most honored in Western society, don't leave it there. All right. Particularly seeing as when we overconnect with our minds, we're actually essentially ignoring our strategy and our authority and the energy of our type. So we need to move our focus from, you know, the logic of the mind, the wisdom of the mind, and understand that our true wisdom is coming from the body. And this is what strategy and authority teaches us. All right. So it can tap into that body wisdom, that deep, deep intuition, and, you know, actually align with our energy. So, you know, we're living our design, we're not thinking our design. That doesn't work because when I first came to Human Design as a line 1, I just took in all the information, but it didn't change me one bit. It was only when I started to experiment with it that it had an impact on how I go through my life. All right, so it's just some food for thought. Now, if you are ready to actually really begin the powerful work of aligning to your design, I have several ways that I help people. This is really what I'm here to do. All right, so I have a program that is particularly around healing all of the deep wounding that you've accumulated trying to live against your design or not in flow with your design. So that's my HD Mind Reiki program. But probably the one that gives you both information and begins to take you on the process of your experimentation is my program called Living with Your Human Design. So this is a 12-week individual program that takes you from experimenting with your strategy and your authority so you understand how they work, to then experimenting and understanding what's going on with your different centers and how the gates and the channels bring their particular energy into that and how you can work with them. So in that way, you can begin to actually live your design in a meaningful way that, if you continue on that pathway, will create real and lasting change in your life. So it's not going to be quick change. The 12-week program is not going to be the end of the process, but it is a beautiful start to the process. All right, so this is a one-to-one program. So essentially it doesn't have to take 12 weeks. You can spread it out more if you want to, but it is designed to be done over 12 weeks. So if you are interested, please check below for ways to get more details. Now, if you love human design, if you would like to, continue to see videos from me, then make sure you're following, you're liking, you're doing all of those things down wherever. Okay, so please follow and like on YouTube. Thank you. All right, I'm going to leave it there for today. So I will be back soon with some other ideas around human design that hopefully will help you to live your design in an amazing way. So goodbye for now.